The rain hammered against the hospital window like 1,000 unanswered questions. And in that sterile room, Alexander felt the scalpel slice not just into his eye, but into the fragile world he had built in darkness. "It's him," the surgeon whispered to the nurse. But Alexander heard only the echo of a voice he knew too well, the one that had guided him through nights when sight was a forgotten dream. When the bandages came off 3 days later, the first face he saw was not the man's who had held his hand through every storm, but a stranger's. And in that moment, the light betrayed him worse than the blindness ever had. Seattle's perpetual drizzle had become his rhythm. The patter on the roof of the old Victorian house in Capitol Hill where he lived alone, or at least where he had lived until the accident. Alexander Hale had been a freelance photographer, chasing sunsets over Puget Sound with his Nikon slung over his shoulder, capturing the raw edges of the city, the graffiti-splashed alleys of Pioneer Square, the fog-shrouded ferries slicing through Elliott Bay. At 26, life was a series of exposures, each frame a story he could develop in the darkroom of his mind. Then came a night on I-5, the screech of tires, the flash of headlights that wasn't his own. A drunk driver, they said later. Shattered glass, a crushed orbital bone, and optic nerves that swelled shut like doors slammed in fury. 26 became a void. The first weeks blurred into a haze of audiobooks and takeout deliveries. His apartment a tomb of half-finished prints pinned to walls he could no longer see. Friends drifted. Jordan, his college roommate from UW, called every day at first, voice thick with that Seattle awkwardness, promising to swing by with coffee for Vivace. But promises faded like the scent of espresso. Alexander learned the cane's tap-tap against sidewalks, the swell of voices at the Virginia Mason Rehab Center. There, in group therapy circles scented with institutional cleaner, he met Elias. Elias Warwick didn't introduce himself with fanfare. He just slid into the seat beside Alexander one Tuesday, the vinyl creaking under his weight, and said, "You sound like you're carrying the whole sound on your back. Want to share the load?" His voice was low, gravelly from years of what Alexander would later imagine were late-night smokes on fire escapes, laced with a faint drawl that hinted at Texas roots transplanted north. Alexander turned toward the sound, his unseeing eyes fixed somewhere past Elias's shoulder. "What's it to you?" he replied, sharper than intended. Elias chuckled, a sound like rain on leaves. "Fair enough. Name's Elias. Lost my leg in Afghanistan. '09. Prosthetic's a bitch in this weather, but it beats the alternative." From there, conversations spilled like the overflow from Lake Union after a storm. Elias was 32, a veteran turned barista at a hole-in-the-wall in Fremont called Brewed Awakening, where he pulled shots with the precision of a sniper. He talked about the stars over Kandahar, how they looked sharper than any city light, and Alexander shared fragments of his lost lens, how he'd once framed a heron's wing against the Olympics, the way light bent like a secret. Soon, Elias was at his door, bags of groceries in hand, fresh sourdough from Seawolf Bakers, heirloom tomatoes that burst under teeth, salmon grilled with dill because you can't live on ramen forever. "Kid," Alexander protested at first, the independence he clung to like a lifeline. But Elias had a way of dismantling walls without force. He described the world in brushes of words, the way the cherry blossoms on University Avenue unfurled pink against gray skies, or the neon flicker of the pink door sign reflecting in puddles. Nights stretched into mornings, Elias's hand steady on Alexander's arm as they navigated the farmer's market at Pike Place, fingers brushing over the ridged skin of kiwis, inhaling the brine of fishmonger stalls. It was intimacy born of necessity, but deepened. One evening, as thunder rumbled over the Cascades, Elias guided Alexander's fingers to the keys of an old, upright piano in the living room, dust motes he couldn't see dancing in the air. "Feel that. Ivory's worn smooth from ghosts who play before us." Alexander's hands trembled, pressing notes that clashed like his fears. Elias leaned close, breath warm against his ear. "Let me messy. That's where the music lives." Their first kiss happened then. Tentative. Tasting of chamomile tea and unspoken aches. Elias's lips were chapped from the wind, his stubble scraping like sandpaper. But in the dark, it was revelation. They built a routine, fragile as spun glass. Mornings, Elias would wake Alexander with the scent of bacon sizzling, describing the steam curling like dragon's breath. Afternoons were for walks in Discovery Park, Elias's voice painting the tides crashing against driftwood, the salt spray misting their faces. Evenings, tangled in sheets that smelled of lavender detergent from the laundromat on Broadway. Elias traced the scar on Alexander's temple with fingertips calloused from coffee grinders. "You're more than what you see," he'd murmur, and Alexander believed him, because in blindness, touch became truth. But doubt crept in like fog off the bay. Elias never spoke of family, only vague mentions of a sister in Austin who sent postcards with pressed wildflowers. His prosthetic clicked faintly when he shifted in sleep, a reminder of wounds Alexander couldn't heal. And there were absences. Nights Elias vanished with a hurried work emergency, returning with the faint tang of whiskey on his breath. Explanations thin as Seattle summer sun. Alexander pushed it down, chalking it to his own insecurities, the fear that love and darkness was just borrowed light. Then came the call from the ophthalmologist at Swedish Medical Center. "Experimental procedure, Dr." Lena Vasquez explained over speakerphone, her voice crisp with East Coast edges. "Stem cell therapy combined with neural implants. High risk, but your scans show potential." Elias was there, gripping Alexander's hand under the kitchen table scarred from years of solo meals. "What do you think?" Alexander asked, heart pounding like bass from a passing Sounders game. Elias was quiet too long. "It's your call, Alex. But whatever happens, you're already whole." The words landed heavy, a stone in still water. Surgery was scheduled for spring, when the dogwoods bloomed white against evergreens. The night before, Elias held him tighter than usual, body slick with sweat, breaths sinking like waves on Alki Beach. "Promise me something," Alexander whispered into the crook of Elias's neck. "If I wake up seeing, you'll be the first thing I look for." Elias's laugh was soft, strained. "Deal. Now sleep. Shutterbug. Tomorrow's a new frame." The Ore lights were blinding even through sedation. Irony Alexander noted in his fogged mind. Hours blurred, then the slow unwrap in recovery. "Dr." Vasquez's face swam into focus first, dark hair pinned back, eyes kind behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Welcome back, Mr. Hale." "How many fingers?" "3," he croaked, voice raw. The room sharpened, beeping monitors, for drip glistening like dew. And there, in the corner, a silhouette. But as his vision cleared, the chair was empty. "Where's Elias?" he asked, panic threading his words. "DR." Vasquez glanced at the nurse. "Your partner? He stepped out for coffee. I think." Said he'd be right back, but he wasn't. Hours turned to a day, then two. Jordan arrived with balloons that bobbed like buoys, his freckled face splitting into a grin. "Dude, you look like a raccoon who won the lottery." They laughed, but Alexander's eyes darted to the door every time it swung. By discharge, Elias's phone went straight to voicemail, messages piling like unanswered prayers. The apartment felt cavernous, light pouring through windows unfiltered, revealing dust on shelves. The piano's keys yellowed with neglect. Alexander paced the creaky floors, tracing the indent where Elias's boots had worn the rug. A note on the counter, in handwriting slanted like windswept pines, "You don't need me anymore. Lie bright." It was the first betrayal of sight, clarity that cut deeper than shadow. Alexander sank to the floor, the world vivid and vicious, wondering if love, like light, was just an illusion chased too long. Summer unfurled in Seattle like a reluctant flower, azaleas bursting defiant against the gray. But Alexander's days dragged in monochrome. The city assaulted him now, billboards screaming ads for craft IPAs. The relentless honk of traffic on Aurora Avenue. Faces in coffee lines at Zoka that blurred into anonymity. He tried his camera again, fingers fumbling the strap. But lenses mocked him, turning moments into mechanical clicks. Jordan dragged him to a Mariners game at T-Mobile Park, the crack of bats echoing his fracturing resolve. But even the fireworks over Safeco Field felt hollow without Elias's commentary. Nights were worse. Sleep evaded him, chased by dreams where Elias's voice called from fog-shrouded paths in Green Lake Park, only to dissolve at dawn. Alexander scoured the apartment for clues, a forgotten lighter etched with a desert rose, a playlist on his phone titled Desert Nights, heavy with Johnny Cash and Lucinda Williams. Elias had hinted at his past, a discharge from the Army after an IED, aimless drifting from El Paso to Portland before landing in Seattle's embrace. But why leave? The question gnawed like damp rot on the walls. One muggy July afternoon, Alexander wandered into brood awakening, the bell above the door tinkling like a half-remembered laugh. The barista behind the counter was a wiry kid named Theo, tattoos snaking up his arms like vines. "Elias?" "Yeah. He bounced a couple months back. Said something about heading south. Left without much notice." Theo shrugged, steaming milk with a hiss. Guy was solid, though. Always slipped extra foam hearts for the regulars. Alexander's chest tightened. Foam hearts, a detail Elias had described once. Drawing patterns in lattes for blind dates that never materialized. He ordered a black coffee, strong as regret, and sat by the window overlooking the ship canal, watching kayaks slice water like forgotten promises. That night, he called his sister, Mia, in Portland. Her voice, warm as Willamette Valley wine, cracked over the line. "Alex, you sound like hell. Come down. The coast needs you." The drive south on I-5 was a blur of evergreens and exit signs. Radio static flickering between NPR segments on veteran PTSD and indie folk anthems that twisted the knife. Mia met him at her craftsman in Selwood. Arms open, her auburn curls frizzing in the humidity. Look at you, seeing the world again and still moping like a rained-out festival. Over Pinot Gris on the porch swing, Alexander spilled it all, the care, the love, the vanishing act. Mia listened, feet tucked under her, the hum of cicadas a backdrop. Sounds like he was your guide dog with benefits. But people leave. Bro. Doesn't make it less shitty. She was right. In theory. Days in Portland blurred into healing. Hikes along the Columbia Gorge where mist veiled Multnomah Falls. The roar drowning his thoughts. Evenings at Powell's City of Books. Fingers trailing spines of Kerouac and Baldwin. Stories of roads less traveled and loves unspoken. Mia introduced him to her circle, queer artists and activists. Gatherings at the Alberta Arts District where rainbow flags fluttered like defiant breaths. There was Ravi, a graphic designer with a laugh like thunder, who sketched Alexander's profile in charcoal, capturing the scar's curve. "You've got eyes that hold storms," Ravi said. And for a moment, Alexander felt seen, not just looked at. But Seattle pulled him back by autumn's equinox, leaves turning gold under overcast skies. Work trickled in, a gig shooting headshots for a startup in Belltown. The subject's smiles forced under studio lights. Alexander developed the roles in his darkroom. The red glow, a temporary blindness. Chemicals swirling like emotions he couldn't fix. One print emerged sharper, his own reflection in a mirror. Eyes haunted, the man he was becoming staring back. October brought the first sighting, or what he thought was one. At the Elliott Bay Book Company, browsing the LGBTQ plus shelf for James Baldwin's essays. Alexander glanced up from Giovanni's room to see a man across the cafe, tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair cropped close, a prosthetic glinting under the hem of his jeans as he shifted. The profile, strong nose, jaw shadowed with stubble. Elias? Heart slamming. Alexander wove through tables, coffee cups clinking like warnings. Elias. The word escaped hoarse. The man turned, face folding into confusion. Not him, eyes blue where Elias's were amber. Laugh lines absent. Sorry. Man. Name's Connor. A boyfriend waited at the table, hand intertwined, rings glinting. Alexander mumbled an apology, fleeing to the rain-slick streets, cheeks burning with the fool's heat. Doubt festered. Was Elias a ghost conjured by grief? He joined a support group at the Seattle Counseling Service for the Blind. No, for the newly sighted. A circle of stories in a fluorescent-lit room overlooking Lake Union. There, he met Harlan, a soft-spoken engineer from Ballard, blind from birth until a corneal transplant at 35. Harlan's tales were gentle, the shock of color in sunrises, the betrayal of faces that didn't match inner images. Sight's a gift and a thief, Harlan said one evening over herbal tea at Le Panier. Steals the purity of how you knew the world. Their friendship bloomed tentative. Walks along the locks where salmon leaped silver against lock's gears. Harlan's hand on Alexander's elbow was steady, not possessive. His voice a calm baritone reciting poetry from memory, Whitman on Bodies Electric. Kisses happened under the aurora of Northern Lights one rare, clear night. Soft and exploratory, Harlan's fingers mapping Alexander's back like braille. It was comfort, a balm on raw edges. But Elias's shadow lingered, a whisper in every touch. Winter clamped down, Holidays strung with lights that mocked his solitude. Jordan hosted a solstice party in his queen and walk-up. Fairy lights twinkling over mulled wine and a playlist of Sufjan Stevens carols. Alexander arrived fashionably late, bundled in wool from REI, scanning faces in the crowd. And there, by the record player flipping vinyl, was him or another ghost. The man leaned against the exposed brick, laughing at something Jordan said, his profile etched in lamplight, same height, same quiet confidence, but hair longer, tied back in a ponytail, a beard fuller than memory. No prosthetic visible, but the way he favored his left leg. Alexander's drink slipped from numb fingers, glass shattering like ice on pavement. Elias. This time, the name was a plea. The man straightened, amber eyes locking on. Recognition flickered, then shuddered. Wrong guy. Friend. Voice smoother. No drawl. But the pause, the infinitesimal hesitation, hung like smoke. Alexander backed away, pulse thundering, the party swirling into chaos. Outside, snow flurried rare and fleeting, melting on his lashes. Was it him? The question clawed, a hook in flesh. That night, alone in bed, Alexander wept for the first time since sight returned. The darkness voluntary, a return to where love had felt real. Spring teased with crocuses pushing through mulch in the International District. But Alexander's world contracted. He ghosted Harlan. Texts unread. The engineer's concerned voicemails stacking like bricks. Work dried up. His portfolio gathered digital dust on Behance. Nights blurred into bars on Capitol Hill. Numos, with its sticky floors and indie rock pulsing like heartbeats, the Cuff Complex, where leather and lace mingled under strobes. He sought oblivion in strangers' arms. Bodies pressing in bathrooms, scented with bleach. But each release was hollow. Echoes of Elias's touch mocking him. One dawn, hungover and hollow, Alexander found the lighter again, flipping it open to reveal a photo tucked inside. Elias. Younger. In fatigues. Arm around a soldier with a grin wide as the Rio Grande. On the back, scrawled, "For the days we can't see ahead." Love? E. It was the first tangible proof. A relic from the man who had vanished. Desperation birthed action. He hired a PI, a grizzled ex-cop named Grady from a Yellow Pages ad. Office in Pioneer Square reeking of stale cigars. Warwick. Huh. Common name up here with all the vets. Grady's searches yielded fragments. Elias's discharge papers from Joint Base Lewis McCord. A lease ended abruptly in Fremont. A bar tab at the Tractor Tavern cleared in cash. No forwarding address, but a whisper, sightings in Tacoma, working odd jobs at a dive called the Rusty Anchor. Alexander drove south that weekend, the Narrows Bridge spanning like a silver thread. Tacoma's industrial sprawl, a gritty counterpoint to Seattle's polish. The bar was dim, peanut shells crunching under boots, jukebox crooning Merle Haggard. He nursed a Rainier, eyes scanning the crowd, loggers in flannel, sailors on leave. No Elias. But the bartender, a woman with a tattoo of an anchor on her forearm, leaned in. Looking for Warwick? Haven't seen him since spring. Heard he hitched to Cali. Chasing ghosts or something poetic like that. Back in Seattle. Defeat settled like ash. He called Mia. Voice breaking. What if he was never real? What if I imagined the whole thing? Her reply was fierce. Bullshit. You felt him. That's realer than sight. As cherry blossoms peaked, Alexander forced himself to the Pike Place market, camera in hand. He shot the fishmongers tossing salmon in arcs of silver, the violets blooming purple in stalls, vendors' faces weathered by wind. One frame caught a street musician, fiddle weeping under a viaduct, his eyes closed in ecstasy. Developing it later, Alexander saw the poetry, beauty and blindness to the crowd's stares. Harlan texted again. Dinner? Alexander agreed. Meeting at a bistro in Madrona, overlooking the lake. Sunset gilding waves gold. Harlan's smile was tentative, forgiveness in his gaze. Mr. Storms, he said, clinking glasses of Sauvignon Blanc. Conversation flowed easy. Harlan's latest project, a bridge retrofit for Sound Transit, Alexander's failed PI hunt. Under the table, Harlan's knee brushed his, a question unspoken. They ended up at Harlan's place in Finney Ridge, a modern loft with exposed beams and a wall of succulents thriving in grow lights. Making love was slow, reverent, Harlan's hands steady, mapping scars with lips, Alexander's eyes open, drinking in the freckles across Harlan's chest like constellations. It was different from Elias, no gravel urgency, but quiet building, waves not tempests. Afterward, tangled in sheets, Harlan traced Alexander's jaw. You carry him still. That's okay. But don't let him eclipse this. Dawn light filtered through blinds, painting Harlan's sleeping form in stripes. Alexander slipped out, camera capturing the moment, vulnerability in repose. Driving home through waking streets, he felt a crack in the armor, sight as ally, not enemy. But fate, cruel curator, had one more frame. At a gallery opening in Georgetown for emerging photographers, Alexander sipped Pinot Noir amid prints of abstracted urban decay. A voice from behind, those exposures. They bleed emotion. Turning, he faced a man from Jordan's party, the ponytail, the beard, the amber eyes now unguarded. This time, no denial. Alex, the man said, voice cracking like dry earth. It's me. The gallery's hum faded to a distant roar. Prints on walls blurring into abstract wounds as Alexander stared at the ghost-made flesh. Elias, no. The man who claimed to be stood there in a button-down rolled to elbows. Tattoos peeking like secrets. A compass rose on his forearm, pointing nowhere. His hair, unbound now, fell in waves to shoulders, beard threaded with early silver. The limp was subtler, prosthetic advanced, but Alexander saw the ghost of it in the slight hitch. Ow! Alexander's voice was a rasp, wine glass trembling in his grip. Elias's eyes, those amber pools that had narrated sunrises, darted to the floor, mosaic tiles cracked like trust. Can we talk? Not here. They slipped out to the alley behind the warehouse. Rain-slick cobblestones reflecting neon from a tattoo parlor's sign. Seattle's night wrapped around them, cool and indifferent, the distant wail of a siren underscoring the fracture. Elias lit a cigarette with shaking hands, the lighter's flame illuminating the scar bisecting his brow. New since the desert. I never meant to hurt you. Alex. God, that's a lie. I did. But not like you think. Alexander leaned against brick, rough against his back, arms crossed like barriers. You left a note like some coward's haiku. Live bright. What the hell does that even mean? I woke up seeing and you were gone. Poof. Like I was a job you clocked out on. Anger surged, hot as flashbulbs. But beneath it, the ache, a chasm widened by months of what-ifs. Elias exhaled smoke in a plume, eyes distant. The real me, not the version you built in the dark. He paused, flicking ash into a puddle that swallowed it whole. After the army, I came to Seattle to disappear. No Thais, no piti. Then you, crashing into therapy like a storm off the bay. Blind. Yeah, but fierce. You made me remember what hands are for, holding, not just holding guns. The words landed soft, but Alexander recoiled. So what? You pitted me? Played nurse with benefits until the patient graduated. Rain started. Fine mist beating on lashes. But neither moved. No. Elias stepped closer. Cigarette discarded. Crushed under boot. I loved you. That's the problem. In the dark, we were equals, both broken, both whole. But sight, it would have shown you the cracks. The drinking. The nights I drove to Tacoma, staring at bridges, wondering if one jump would end it. His voice broke, raw as exposed wire. PTSD isn't a footnote. Alex. It's a thief. Steals sleep, turns love into landmines. I saw it in my old man's eyes before he ate his service pistol. Didn't want that for us. Alexander's throat tightened. Memories flashing, the whiskey breaths. The silences heavy as fog. You could have said that. Fought for it. Instead, you ran. To where? California? Chasing what? Elias's laugh was bitter, echoing off dumpsters. South. Yeah. Santa Cruz first, crashing with a buddy from the unit. Boardwalk jobs, surfing waves that don't judge. But it followed the dreams, the shakes. Landed in LA, freelance carpentry on sets. Fixed props for indies. Built facades. Fitting. Right? He reached out, hand hovering near Alexander's arm. Then dropped it. I saw your name in a trade mag. Photographer regains sight. Keptios comeback. Knew you were flying. Couldn't drag you down. The alley spun. Rain thickening to sheets. Soaking shirts to skin. Alexander's mind raced. Betrayal twisting into something grayer. Not black and white. And now, showing up like a bad sequel. Why? Elias met his gaze, unflinching. Heard about the show from Jordan. Had to see. You're radiant. But I had to know if the hate was bigger than the what if. Thunder grumbled distant. Over the Olympics. Alexander turned away, chest heaving. I don't hate you. I mourned you. Build a life without Harlan. Work. Frames that finally focus. You can't just waltz back and rewrite the exposure. He walked away then, boots splashing puddles, leaving Elias in the downpour. Silhouette dissolving like a fading print. The next days were delirium. Alexander holed up in his darkroom, negatives curling under in larger light, printing Elias's face from memory, eyes that held canyons, smile crooked as a desert trail. Harlan called, voice laced with hurt. Heard you bailed again. What's the ghost's name this time? They met at Cary Park. Iconic skyline framed by the Space Needle. Dusk painting it pink. Alexander confessed over takeout faux from card. Steam rising like confessions. Harlan listened. Chopsticks paused. Love's not a zero-sum, Alex. But you can't frame it if you're afraid to develop. Forgiveness came slow, in layers. Harlan stayed. Their nights a rhythm of shared silences. Mornings with eggs scrambled and newspapers rustling. Alexander shot a series for a local mag, Sightlines, Seattle Reimagined, portraits of the newly sighted. One subject, a teen named Kai from the Makah Nation, mirroring his own rebirth. Elias didn't call, but postcards arrived and signed. Postmarked from Joshua Tree, a photo of wind-sculpted rocks. Caption, even in light, shadows teach. Alexander pinned them to his wall, beside the heron print from before the crash. Temptation gnawed, an itch under skin. One weekend, Harlan away at a conference in Spokane. Alexander drove south again, not to Tacoma, but to the desert's edge, where cacti stood sentinel under relentless sun. The motel in Yucca Valley was faded pink, neon vacancy buzzing like nerves. Elias answered the door in a tank top, sawdust clinging to jeans, surprise etching lines deeper. Alex. Didn't expect, he stepped aside. Room sparse, twin bed, guitar case, stack of screenplays dog-eared. They talked till stars wheeled overhead, beers sweating on the sill. Elias unspooled his unraveling, the benders and dive bars off Sunset, waking in alleys with fists bruised from shadows that weren't there. Therapy in a VA clinic. Group circles where vets swapped war stories like trading cards. Group leaders said, run toward light. Not from it. But light shows the blood. A tentative truce formed, hands brushing over bottlenecks, the air thick with unsaid. Sleep claimed them side by side, platonic at first, then shifting, bodies remembering rhythms. Elias's palm on Alexander's hip, breath hitching. Dawn's sex was urgent, reclaiming. Sweat slick under ceiling fans whirl. Afterward, Elias traced the scar. Missed this map, but his coffee brewed. Reality intruded. Can't stay ghosts. Alex, you have a life. Harlan sounds solid. Jealousy flickert in Alexander's Gut. Unbidden. He's good. Steady. But you're the storm. They parted with a kiss tasting of regret. Elias's number scrawled on a napkin, for when the frame needs filling. Back in Seattle, Harlan sensed the shift, eyes narrowing over dinner at Canlis. City lights sprawling below. You went to him, not accusation, but fact. Alexander nodded. Shame hot. Needed closure. Harlan set down his fork. Salmon untouched. Closure's a door. You left it cracked. Their goodbye was civil. Hands lingering too long. Harlan's final words, don't lose yourself chasing echoes. Alone again, Alexander dove into work. The series earning a spread in Seattle Weekly. Readers emailing stories of their own cited loves lost. But the high faded, winter's grip loosening in a spring's thaw. Elias's calls came sporadic, late nights, voice slurred with exhaustion or elation. Tales of an indie film gig in Silver Lake, building sets for a queer romance. Reminds me of us, he'd say, and Alexander would laugh. Heart-twisting. Then, the crisis, a voicemail from Grady. The PI. Hail. Got a hit. Ward's got priors. Bar fights in El Paso. '07. Assault on a lover. Drop charges. And get this, he's got a kid. Boy. 8. in Foster and Austin. Biological. From before the service. The words detonated. Shrapnel in veins. Betrayal anew. Not just leaving, but a hidden life. A son abandoned like Alexander's sight. Rage propelled him to LAX. Rental car, eating miles to the valley. Elias opened the door mid-sentence on a script. Face paling. Alex, what? You have a son? Alexander shoved the printout. Voice thunder. Foster care? And you didn't think to mention while you played house with the blind guy. Elias deflated, sinking to the stoop. Her name was Lena. High school. El Paso. I was 18. Stupid. She kept him, Tyler, raised him till the cancer. I was deployed when she passed. Came back to nothing but debt and a social worker's card. Tears tracked, dust-streaked cheeks. Tried to get him, but the PTSD. They said unstable. So I ran. To Seattle. To you. Thought distance would dull it. Alexander paced the cracked sidewalk, palms itching for the camera that wasn't there. I was your distraction from a kid who needed you. No. You were salvation. Showed me I could care without breaking. Elias stood, hands out. I'm fighting now, court dates, therapy logs. Going back for him this summer. The fight drained, leaving exhaustion. Alexander cupped Elias's face, thumbs wiping salt. Then go. Be the man I loved in the dark. They made love one last time on the threadbare rug. Desperate. Bodies a dialogue of forgiveness and farewell. Morning came with coffee and silence. Alexander driving north alone. Rearview mirroring a man remade by light's harsh truth. Summer's heat wave baked Seattle into submission. Asphalt shimmering like mirages. But Alexander's core chilled with the ghost of desert sands. The drive back from L.A. stretched endless. 101 hugging the coast where waves crashed indifferent. Radio droning podcasts on queer family dynamics that hit too close. Elias's parting gift, a worn journal of sketches. Desert scenes in pencil strokes lay on the passenger seat. Pages flipping in AC gusts. Tyler's name echoed. A child's phantom, making Alexander question every touch, every whispered promise. Had Elias's care been genuine? Or a bandage on his own hemorrhaging heart? Home greeted with mail piled like accusations. Harlan's return key. A note clipped. Doors closed for reasons. Build new. Jordan's invite to Pride. Scribbled on a napkin from Elliot's Oyster House. Alexander tossed them aside, diving into the darkroom instead. Chemicals acrid as regret. Prints emerged chaotic, overexposed frames of Elias's profile from memory. Underexposed alleys where they once walked. One accidental double exposure layered Elias over Tyler's imagined face from stock photos, a boy with amber eyes. Gap-toothed smile, ghosts overlapping like unresolved negatives. Pride weekend descended. Rainbow crosswalks in Capitol Hill pulsing with bass from DJ booths. Floats crawling Broadway like Technicolor serpents. Jordan hauled him out. Face paint in stripes. Tank top emblazoned, love is blind, but we're not. The crowd surged. Drag queens on stilts tossing glitter. Leather daddies locking arms with twinks in mesh. Alexander wove through. Camera capturing fragments. A couple's kiss under confetti rain. Tears streaking a trans activist sign. See me. But joy felt borrowed. His smile a filter over fracture. At the after-party in a loft on East Pine. Bodies pressed sweat slick. Alexander nursed a gin and tonic. ice melting like resolve. A hand on his shoulder, Ravi, from Portland days. Eyes sparkling under LED lights. Stranger in a familiar storm. They talked over thumping EDM. Ravi's new exhibit in Soto, bridging queer narratives and climate grief. Your series inspired it. Sight as survival. Emboldened by liquor. Alexander confessed the whirlwind. Elias's return. The sun. The severance. Ravi listened. Head tilted. Sounds like a plot twist worthy of Todd Haynes. But you're the director now. They danced then. Bodies sinking in a crush. Ravi's palms warm on hips. Stubble grazing neck in a slow grind. It was escape. Electric. Ravi's laugh vibrating through chests. Kisses tasting of lime and salt. They tumbled to Ravi's place in Belltown. Harbor views through floor-to-ceiling windows. Making love with the ferry's horns as underscore. Ravi was fire to Harlan's earth, playful bites. Fingers painting trails down spine. Morning afters with avocado toast and lazy sketches of Alexander nude. Pose languid on rumpled duvet. But integration faltered. Ravi's energy was a whirlwind. Gallery hops and rooftop soirees. While Alexander craved quiet, nights scrolling Elias's sparse Instagram. A new profile under EW Builds, posts of reclaimed wood furniture. Captions cryptic, structuring what was splintered. No Tyler yet. But a tag from Austin lawyer, progress. Jealousy mingled with pride. A cocktail sour. August brought commissions. A wedding shoot in the San Juans. Ferrying to Orcas Island where evergreens met Salish Sea. The couple. Nate and Liam, high school sweethearts turned tech founders, exchanged vows on a bluff. Wind whipping veils. Alexander's lens catching the tear tracing Nate's cheek. Liam's hand steady on his. You make the ordinary epic, Liam said post-ceremony. Over crab cakes at a lodge. Their story, overcoming family dissonance. Building a life in Seattle's startup scene, mirrored Alexander's ache. Love is act of defiance. Developing the roles back home. Amid the scent of Stop Bath. Alexander wept for what he'd lost and gained. A call interrupted. Mia. Voice urgent. Elias reached out. He's in Austin. Custody hearing tomorrow. Wants you to know. He named the crib he built after you. Shudder. The revelation cracked him open. Light flooding fissures. He booked a flight that night. Red-eye to Austin Bergstrom. Landing in heat thick as molasses. Cicadas chorusing from live oaks. Elias met him at a taqueria off South Congress. Patio strung with Edison bulbs. Plates of barbacoa steaming. Thinner. Eyes ringed with fatigue. But the smile crooked. Canyon deep. Unchanged. You came. Could not. They ate in silence first. Flavors exploding. Smoky carn. Cilantro sharp. Then words tumbled. The hearing. Social workers grilling on stability. Elias's sponsor from AA vouching for 6 months sober. Tyler. 9 now. Shy with dark curls. Clutching a stuffed armadillo. He asked about his mom. I show photos. Yours too. The ones you sent from Seattle. Alexander's throat closed. I'm not. I know. But you're part of the frame. They walked the trail along Ladybird Lake after. Bats swirling at dusk from Congress Avenue Bridge. A million wings blotting sunset. Elias's hand brushed his. Electric. Miss you. Shutterbug. But this, Tyler's my light now. Pride swelled. Mingled with loss. They kissed under moonlight. Soft. Sealing not reunion, but release. Go be his dad, Alexander whispered. I'll be the uncle who sends prints of rainy cities. Back in Seattle, Ravi waited with dim, some at Din Tai Fung. Sensing the shift. Lover or closer, he teased. But eyes searched. Alexander laid it bare. No filters. Ravi nodded, chopsticks pausing. I'm game for the mess. But only if it's us. Not echoes. Fall-colored, the leaves crimson. Alexander's life a montage. Shoots for Out magazine, profiling queer vets. His lens finding Elias in every resilient gaze. Nights with Ravi. Cooking paella on his balcony. Laughter echoing over the sound. But cracks showed Ravi's impatience with Alexander's drifts. Staring at desert postcards, Alexander's flinches at sudden noises. Echoes of IED tales. The breaking came November. Election night, chill seeping through windows. Returns flickered on TV, divided nation. Headlines screaming division. Ravi, deep in a grant proposal, snapped at Alexander's distraction. You're here, but not. Pick a frame, or get out. Words escalated. Old wounds flayed. I won't be your rebound from the ghost dad hero. Alexander stormed out. Rain lashing. Driving aimless to Golden Gardens. Waves gnashing pebbles like teeth. There. Soaked and shivering. Phone buzzed. Elias. Hearing one. Tyler's home. Sending pic. The photo loaded slow. Elias kneeling. Boy in arms. Both beaming under Texas sun. Armadillo tucked under chin. Caption. Our first frame. Tears mixed with rain. Alexander's sobs wrenching. Sight had returned. But clarity? It illuminated the human tangle. Love not linear, but layered. Betrayal's birthing growth. He called Harlan. Voicemail pouring out. I see now. All of it. Coffee. Dawn broke misty. Alexander at the locks. Camera trained on salmon struggling upstream. Body scar but determined. Click. A new series began. Currents, queer lives in flow. Resilient against tides. Ravi texted, sorry. Let's talk. Alexander replied, yes. But first, healing solo. Winter solstice loomed. Shortest day, longest night. Jordan's party again. Fairy lights, a constellation. Alexander arrived lighter. Shots of currents pinned to corkboard for feedback. Laughter flowed. Mulled cider warming veins. And there, Elias. On screen, Jordan projecting the photo from Austin. To absent friends who become family. The room toasted. Alexander's glass raised high. Sight wasn't the end. It was the aperture, widening to hold multitudes. The solstice party's warmth lingered like afterglow. But January's frost bit deep. Seattle's hills icing over. Streets a treacherous gleam under sodium lamps. Alexander's current series gained traction. A solo show booked at the Fry Art Museum. Curator Elena Voss emailing from a Berlin flat. Your gaze pierces the veil. Raw. Redemptive. Preparations consumed him. Printing sessions till fingers pruned in developer. Framing mats cut precise as surgery. Ravi reintegrated tentative. Their rhythm a cautious waltz. Brunch at Portage Bay Cafe with ricotta hotcakes. Afternoons tangled in sheets overlooking the Olympics. Evenings debating film at SIFF screenings. Yet undercurrents pulled. Elias's updates arrived bi-weekly. Texts blooming with Tyler's milestones. First soccer goal in peeling cleats. Crayon drawings of Uncle Alex's rainy city, mailed in envelopes scented with Lone Star dust. One package held a tiny frame, Alexander's hair in print. Resized. Tyler scrawl, birds fly blind too. Pride warred with wistfulness. Love's diaspora stretching across miles. February's Valentine's gale howled. Uprooting branches in Volunteer Park. Conservatory glass rattling like bones. Ravi planned a surprise. Dinner at the Herb Farm in Woodinville. Wine pairings with heirloom courses. Candlelight dancing on his coal-lined eyes. To us, Ravi toasted. Rings clinking. But midway through duck confit, Alexander's phone vibrated. Elias. Tyler asked for you tonight. Bedtime story. Mind if I read one of yours? A photo attached, boy tucked in spaceship sheets. Elias's voice implied in the curve of his smile. Ravi's fort paused. Jaw tight. Him again. Not question. Indictment. Alexander pocketed the phone. Heart sinking. Just family now, but the word landed wrong. Familial bonds blurring romantic lines. Dessert arrived. Chocolate torte dusted cocoa, but appetite fled. Conversation curdling to silences. The fight erupted post-meal. Ravi's sob hydroplaning on I-405 back to the city. Wipers slashing rain. Family? You're in love with his redemption arc. Not me. Ravi's voice cracked. Hands white-knuckled on wheel. Alexander fired back. You're jealous of a ghost? I'm here. Building with you. But doubt seeded, was he? Ravi's fire ignited his. But Elias's embers smoldered steady. They parted at Ravi's door. Kiss aborted. Door slamming like guillotine. Alexander drove to his apartment. Radio crooning Billie Holiday's ache. Parking under cherry trees barren as regret. Inside, the journal from Yucca Valley fell open to a sketch, two figures intertwined. Labeled Eclipse. He texted Elias. Storytime vetoed? Reply swift. Always room for you. March thawed, tentative. Daffodils nodding in raised beds at the market. The Fry opening loomed. Invites sent to Jordan. Mia. Harlan, even Ravi. Scrawled no pressure. Harlan replied first. Coffee beforehand at Analog. Pour over steaming. His face, softer with time, held no grudge. Proud of you. Man. Series looks like catharsis. They talked easy. Harlan's promotion to lead engineer. A new boyfriend named Theo. The barista kid from Brood Awakening. Laughter bridged the gap. Harlan's knee brushing accidental. Familiar. The gallery night shimmered. Black tie crowd milling under chandeliers. Prints hung dramatic against white walls. Spotlights carving shadows. Elena Voss. Statuesque in emerald silk. Introduced. Alexander Hale reclaims vision not just in eyes, but souls. Applause rippled. Alexander's speech halting. Sight taught me loss. But also layers. Love's not singular, but a salmon run. Fierce against currents. Ravi arrived late. Eyes shadowed. Weaving through admirers to Alexander's side. Stunning. You. They kissed. Public and possessive. Flashbulbs popping like punctuation. But later, by a print of Tyler-inspired overlap, boy's eyes over Elias's silhouette, Ravi tensed. He's here. In frames. Alexander pulled him close. As memory. You know, post-reception. They crashed at Ravi's. Champagne fizzing. Bodies urgent on silk duvet. Ravi's touches were claims. Nails raking back. Whispers fierce. Mine. Dawn brought hangover haze. But commitment solidified. Ravi moving a drawer of clothes to Alexander's closet. Merging lives like blended exposures. Spring's bloom masked brewing storm. Elias announced a visit. Tyler wants Seattle. Soccer camp. Rain stories. June. Alexander's yes was reflexive. Ravi's silence damning. Preparations buzzed. Booking Airbnbs in Fremont. Canal tours. A Mariners game. Mia flew up. Her Portland pragmatism an anchor. Blended families the new queer normal. Just don't blow it. June arrived humid. Elias and Tyler landing at Seattle-Tacoma. Boy wide-eyed at the tarmac's gleam. Tyler was compact dynamite, curls wild. Freckles from Lena's side. Energy boundless. Uncle Alex. Dad says you take pictures without eyes. His hug was fierce. Small arms vice. Elias hung back. Duffel slung. Eyes tracing Alexander's form. Leaner. Confident in linen shirt. Thanks for this. The week unfolded montage. Mornings at the market. Tyler's glee at flying fish arcing. Fingers sticky with mini donuts. Afternoons kicking balls on the synthetic turf at Memorial Stadium. Elias coaching with desert patience. Alexander snapping action shots. Evenings. Stories on the deck. Alexander reading Where the Wild Things Are, voice modulating monsters. Tyler's laughter pealing like bells. Ravi joined selective. Dinner at Matt's in the market. Tyler devouring chowder. Quizzing Ravi on tattoos. Is that a dragon or a snake? Ravi's charm disarmed. Sketching caricatures on napkins. But undercurrents swirled. One night. Post-bedtime. For adults on the couch with IPAs. Tyler crashed early. Conversation veered. Elias on Austin's heat. Custody battles 1 inch by inch. Ravi on his mural commission for a Capitol Hill co-op. Queer icons in spray paint. Tension sparked when Tyler's bedtime plush, the armadillo, tumbled. Elias retrieving it with a tenderness that pierced. Ravi excused himself. Balcony cigarette glowing. Alexander followed. Night, air cool. He's trying, Alexander said. Ravi exhaled sharp. Trying to what? Insert. Words hung. Venomous. Inside, Elias gathered Tyler's things. Boy stirring dad. Is Uncle Ravi mad? Elias shushed. But eyes met Alexander's, apology unspoken. The fracture widened next day at the ball game. Sun glinting off the sound. Tyler cheered fouls with hot dog mustard-smeared grin. But Ravi begged off early, deadline. Elias noted it quiet. Pushing too hard, Alexander deflected. But sea-doubt sprouted. Climax crashed Thursday. Canal cruise aborted for rain. Cooped in the Airbnb. Board games devolved to truths, Tyler asking. Why no mom? Elias fielded gentle. She watches from stars. Ravi. Sketching. Snap pencil. Some stars burn out. Silence choked. Tyler fleeing to room. Elias pursued, leaving Alexander and Ravi in wreckage. You're choosing them, Ravi accused. Voice low thunder. No, us. All of us. But Ravi's eyes hardened. Us was too. This is crowdsourcing love. He packed. Duffel zipping like finality. Door clicking shut behind. Elias emerged. Tyler somnolent on shoulder. What happened? Alexander sank to couch. Head and hands. The cost of currents. That night, alone with ghosts. He developed canal shots. Tyler's profile against water. Elias's hand on rail. Ravi absent. Betrayal's echo, not Elias's this time, but his own divided heart. Tyler left with a print. Me and the fish. Hug tight. Elias lingered at airport drop-off. Palm on Alexander's nape. You're his hero. Don't forget yours. Flight boarded. Alexander driving back through sheets. Windshield wipers slashing tears. Ravi's texts, space. Alexander granted it. Diving into isolation, shoots in the San Juans. Ferries to Friday Harbor. Framing Orcus breaching slate waves. Mia visited. Hikes in the Cascades. Her blunt, love's not monopoly. But it needs boundaries. Harlan coffeed again. Theo in tow. There is a mirror. We figured it. Therapy. Schedules. You will. July's heat peaked. Alexander at Ravi's door. Peace offering. A custom frame of his mural sketch. Matted deep. Ravi opened. Eyes wary but softening. Mr. Lenz. They talked till midnight. Raw. Hertz aired. Boundaries sketched. Elias's co-parent figure. Not paramour. Ravi as partner. Primary. Kisses reignited. Slow rebuild. But crisis loomed larger. Call from Austin. Elias's voice frayed. Tyler's sick. Leukemia. Caught early. Chemo starts Monday. Need you. Alexander's world tilted. Ravi's hand squeezing his. Go. We'll hold. Flight south. Hospital sterile as memory. Tyler pale in gown. For dripping valor. Uncle Alex. Draw me a salmon that fights cancer. Alexander sketched bedside. Elias pacing hall. Face gaunt. Scared shitless, he admitted over vending coffee. But for him, Alexander stayed weeks. Tag teaming with Elias. Story hours in infusion rooms. Park picnics when Tyler rallied. Bald head gleaming under sun. Ravi FaceTime daily. Voice steady. Kick ass. Babe. Bonds reforged. Elias's gratitude a quiet anchor. Alexander's role uncle clear. Love platonic now. Familial. Tyler's remission came August. Cheers echoing pediatric ward. Balloons bobbing. Elias hugged Alexander fierce. Couldn't without you. Back in Seattle. Ravi waited at the gate. Kiss salt tanched. Proud. Autumn leaves fell like confetti. Alexander's life a tapestry. Ravi's ring on finger. Plan for spring, visits to Austin. Tyler's curls regrowing. Currents touring to LA. Elias attending incognito. Toast raised in after-party shadows. Healing wasn't linear, but circular. Sight regaining not just eyes, but empathy's depth. October's harvest, moon hung low over Puget Sound, gilding ferries like silver coins. But Alexander's reflections ran deeper, stirred by the Fry's touring success. LA's Hammer Museum had hosted currents to acclaim. Critics in the Times praising Hale's empathetic exposures, whispers of a Guggenheim Fellowship. Ravi beamed from his Silver Lake crash pad during install week. But distance-tested, late-night calls laced with static. Ravi's grant deadlines clashing with Alexander's schmoozing. Miss your gravity, Alexander murmured into pillow. City hum beyond window. Elias's updates steadied. Tyler scans clean. School acing third grade. Soccer shin guards mailed with notes. Score for the salmon. But under joy. Vigilance. Relapses shadowed every milestone. One night. Post-gallery Q&A. Alexander fielded a question on inspiration. Lost taught layers. Love's not erasure. But addition. Elias texted post-talk. Watch stream. Nailed it. Ty says hi. November elections polarized again. Headlines fracturing feeds. But Alexander's world contracted to intimacies. Thanksgiving at Mia's in Portland. Table groaning turkey and cranberry. Ravi charming her with samosa recipes from his Hyderabad grandma. Jordan crashed. Theo too. Toast to found families. Laughter wove loose ends. But Alexander caught Elias's absence like a missing frame. December's solstice circled back. Jordan's party evolved. Potluck now. Dishes from adoptees' heritages. Jordan's mac and cheese Midwestern glue. Theo's poo-poosis crisped Salvadoran. Alexander arrived with Ravi. Pie from Marie calendars. But eyes scanned for phantoms. No Elias. But a package waited home. Texas pecans. Tyler's drawing of a family tree. Branches for all. Roots intertwined. Winter break beckoned south. Alexander and Ravi flew to Austin. Holiday lights strung on Congress Avenue like promises. Elias's bungalow glowed. Yard-strung luminarias. Tyler barreling out. Presents. The house smelled of tamales steaming. Lena's recipe revived. Dinner unfolded chaotic. Tyler quizzing Ravi on city art. Elias carving turkey with steady knife. Stories swapping. Ravi's mural of Stonewall ghosts. Alexander's orca portraits. Post-feast. Adults on porch swings. Stars pricking velvet sky. Tyler crashed early. Chemo's toll lingering in easy fatigue. Elias cracked beers to navigators. Ravi clinked. Eyes appraising. He's lucky. No undercurrent this time. Alliance forged in Tyler's fire. Christmas morn. Paper tore joyous. Tyler's haul, a robot kit from Ravi. Camera lens filter for Alexander from Elias. Reciprocals touched. Custom skateboard for Ty. Etched current rider for Elias. A print of Seattle fog. Caption clarity in mist. Ravi unwrapped Alexander's gift, a leather-bound sketchbook. Pages prepped with their shared moments. Polaroids of pride kisses. Canyon hikes. But joy's underbelly surfaced New Year's. Austin's midnight fireworks booming like artillery. Tyler spiked fever. Ambulance wailing to Dell Children's. ER lights harsh as interrogations. Elias paced linoleum. Fists clenched. Alexander held Ravi's hand. Text to Mia frantic. Scans blurred hours. Verdict, infection. Treatable. But reminder, remission fragile. Vigil stretched dawn. Tyler stabilizing. For beeping lullaby. Elias slumped in chair. Face ashen. Can't lose him. Not after. Voice trailed. Ghosts of Lena. His father. Alexander knelt. You won't. Recurrence. Remember? We flow. Ravi drove them to hotel. Silence heavy. In bed. He held Alexander tight. It's us against tides. Lovemaking was anchor. Body slow. Reaffirming. Spring 2026 bloomed resilient. Cherry blossoms carpeting U-District paths. Alexander's Guggenheim nod arrived email. Elation shared with Ravi over champagne brunch at Portage Cut. We celebrate proper, Ravi grinned. Plotting a vow renewal, simple. Beachside in Lincoln City. Oregon Dunes. Elias's visit coincided. Tyler's spring break. Mariners opener. Ballpark buzzed. Peanuts crunching underfoot. Tyler's cheers piercing roar. Postgame. Beers at Pyramid Brewery. Foam hearts and lattes nod to old habits. Ravi bonded deeper. Teaching tie spray techniques on butcher paper, art's rebellion. Kid, but betrayal's specter resurfaced subtle. One eve, post-dinner at Alexander's. Tyler asleep on couch. Elias pulled him aside, found letters. Lena's. Before she died, wrote about us, high school fumblings, my leaving for boot camp. Said forgive the boy who ran. Eyes glistened. You forgave me. Don't know how. Alexander's chest ached. Old wound tender. Because sight showed mercy, but Ravi, overhearing from kitchen, stiffened, glass clinking sharp. Later, in bed, his whisper, he's pulling you back. The hero narrative. Denial flared, no, family. But Ravi's eyes searched. Family doesn't look at you like that. Tension simmered. Boiling over May. Ravi's mural unveiling at a Hill co-op. Crowd thronged, activists, artists, press snapping. Alexander arrived late. Traffic snarl on 99. Elias and tie in tow for city adventure. Praise flowed for Ravi's walls. Intertwined figures. Queer lineage from Marsha P. to contemporary fighters. But his speeches droned. Ty tugged Elias, Dad. Potty. They slipped away. Alexander covering. Emerging. Elias's face ashen. Ty vomiting in alley bushes. Fever returning. Call to Austin pediatrician frantic. Verdict, checkup. But panic clawed. Ravi, spotting the huddle. Approached. Again. Tone clipped. Eyes flicking Elias. Every time. It's crisis. Your crisis. Elias bristled. Not planned. Alexander mediated. Ravi. Easy. But spark ignited. Easy? I'm the one holding patterns while you play savior. Words escalated. Ty wide-eyed. Elias scooped him. Taxi hailed. We'll manage. Ravi stormed the studio. Alexander trailing. You're choosing drama over us. Door slammed. Locks turned. Alexander banged. This is life. Messy. Not movie. Silence answered. Weeks fractured. Ravi subletting a friend's couch. Texts curt. Alexander solo in echoing apartment. Darkroom refuge. Calls to Mia, blindsided again. Her wisdom, love's at bay, cut what poisons. Elias's update, false alarm. Antibiotics. But guilt gnawed. His presence the catalyst? He drove to Oregon solo. Dunes whispering. Vowing renewal postponed. Harlan met for coffee in Portland. Theo baking scones. Ravi's hurting. Give space. But show up. June's pride pulse defiant. Alexander marching with Jordan's contingent. Rainbow cape billowing. Banner, see all love. Ravi there. Float perch. Eyes meeting across sea. Regret. Resolve. Post-parade. Bench in Cal Anderson. Falafel wrappers crunching. Missed you, Ravi admitted. But scared. Of losing to the pull. Alexander took hand. No pull. Choice you. Kisses under evergreens. Tentative rebuild. July heat wave baked. Alexander's fellowship grant funding a residency in Marfa. Texas, desert light for currents expansion. Ravi opted join, our frame, but en route. Pit stop Austin, Elias's bungalow. Ty's welcome cake lopsided. Dinner familial, but Ravi's glance is wary. Residency ignited. Vast skies. Chinati installations echoing isolation. Alexander shot prairies. Ravi sketched installations. Nights in Airstream trailer. Stars blanket. One eve. Storm brewing. Elias called Taiwan Story. And Me Too, Ravi overheard. Tension coiling. Climax cracked August. Gallery talk in Marfa's ballroom. Crowd intellectuals sipping mezcal. Alexander spoke on healing. Sight reveals not just beauty, but breakage as path. Q&A veered personal, a vet and audience. How forgive the lever? Words flowed, by seeing their light too. Post-talk. Ravi confronted. That was him. Always him. Alexander denied. But Ravi's phone lit. Text from Mutual. Elias in town. Scouting sets. Dinner invite. Coincidence. Ravi packed. I'm done orbiting. Flight back separate. Alexander to Seattle. Ravi to Portland space. Apartment cavernous. Prince mocking. Call to Elias. Ravi knows. Thinks I'm split. Elias's sigh. Truth? I am. But you're not mine to claim. Crisis peaked September. Equinox winds, stripping leaves. Tyler's checkup clear. But Elias confessed. Met someone. Carpenter. Austin. Steady. Joy for him. Pang for Alexander. Closure's gift. Ravi returned October. Olive branch. Joint exhibit proposal. Partners. Not parallels. Therapy joined. Couple sessions at Seattle Counseling. Unpacking patterns. Alexander's savior complex. Ravi's abandonment fears. Healing deep in winter. Solstice party intimate. Just core. Jordan. Mia. Harlan's crew. Elias zooming with Ty. Toasting layers. Ravi's hand in Alexander's. Ring glinting proposal light. Spring 2027. Vows on Oregon coast. Dune's witness. Waves him. Elias best man virtual. Ty ring bearer via feed. To currents, eternal. The Oregon coast spray misted the archway of driftwood and seagrass. Waves a rhythmic vow as Alexander stood barefoot in sand. Ravi's hand warm in his. The officiant, a queer elder from Portland's Queer Center, intoning words woven from Whitman and Waves. In sight and shadow. You choose each other. Rings exchanged. Simple titanium etched with currents. Ceiling not end, but continuum. Mia, a hooped from folding chairs. Jordan snapping candids. Theo passing flasks of local mead. Elias's face pixelated on a prop tablet. Tyler waving wildly beside. Uncle Alex married. Like superheroes. Honeymoon stretched lazy in a Cannon Beach cabin. Fire crackling against chill. Ravi's sketches piling. Dune nudes. Alexander's profile against haystack rock. Lovemaking was sacrament. Bodies mapped familiar yet renewed. Laughter bubbling post-climax over Scrabble tiles. Q without you? Cheater, Alexander teased. Ravi's retort a pillow fight ending in tangled limbs. Back in Seattle. Married life, layered domestic poetry. Mornings at Zoka. Lattes with foam, art hearts Ravi doodled. Evenings cooking taginess. Spices scenting the air like memory. Alexander's Guggenheim bloomed in a book deal. Currents, queer visions reclaimed. Manuscript deadlines syncing with Ravi's mural tours. Elias's updates evolved. His partner. Marco. A gentle giant with a woodshop. Family barbecues under Austin Oaks. Tyler's braces gleaming in Brace's grins. But marriage's honeymoon haze lifted summer, revealing undercurrents. A joint exhibit in Chicago, Ravi's murals beside Alexander's prints, drew crowds. But press junkets strained, interviews probing the muse, Ravi snapping at a reporter's tragic backstory probe. We're not tragedy porn, Alexander mediated. But hotel nights cooled. Arguments over exhibit layouts spilling to silences. Fall's foliage tourist the Midwest. But back home, fracture lines showed. October storm, down power lines. Candles, flickering dinner. Ravi's confession, feel like I'm backdrop sometimes. Your lens pulls everywhere, Elias. Ty. The world. Alexander reached. Your focus. But doubt's aperture narrowed. November's chill deepened. Thanksgiving at Jordan's, evolving to potluck sprawl. But Ravi begged off, deadline. Alone. Alexander hosted Mia and Harlan. Table sparse. Post-feast walk in Discovery Park. Mia's arm linked, heart's need tending. Like gardens. Text from Ravi, gallery snag. Love you. December's solstice party. Now tradition. Brimmed, guests swapping stories. Fairy lights, haloing faces. Elias flew in surprise. Ty with braces off. Marco trailing with brisket. Hugs enveloped. Ty's growth spurt, I level now. Dad says you're the glue. Ravi arrived late. Smile tight. But thought over eggnog. Sketching Ty's portrait. New Year's Austin visit sealed shifts. Marco's shop tour. Hands calloused kindred to Elias's. Ty's school play. Alexander filming proud. Eve fireworks. Family sprawled blankets. Ravi whispering, it's mosaic. Not merch. 2028 dawned with purpose. Alexander's book launch at Elliott Bay. Stacks signing till wrist ached. Ravi's forward reading, he saw me in a frame. Tour cities blurred. NYC Stonewall and talk. SF's Castro Murals collab. But mid-tour, call from Austin, Tyler's fever. Routine, but watchful. Alexander detoured. Ravi opting Portland exhibit. Hospital vigil familiar. Ty's spirit unbroken. Cancer's dumb. I'll beat it again. Elias's gratitude. Your presence. Anchor. Marco cooked pozole in waiting lounge. Family forged. Back uniting in Seattle. Ravi waited airport. Kiss fierce. Miss my co-pilot. But conversations deepened. Therapy resuming. Unpacking poly shadows. Boundaries bend. But don't break. Ravi's vulnerability. Feared eclipse. But your son? Not shadow. Spring's renewal mirrored. Vows anniversary dune picnic. Waves lapping promises. Elias's wedding invite arrived. Fall. Hill Country Ranch. Alexander RSVP'd yes. Ravi beside. Summer's heat hosted Austin nuptials. Wildflowers arching aisle. Ty best man in tiny suit. Vows echoed. In breakage. We build. Reception danced till stars. Alexander toasting. To men who care. Seen or unseen. Fall's Guggenheim culminated exhibit at Sam. Currents eternal. Decades spanning. Elias's donated prosthetic sculpture integrated. Tyler's teen sketches framed. Opening night. Full circle. Harlan. Jordan. Mia. Ravi's arm linked. Elias family in from Austin. Q&A. Question pierced. The man who disappeared. Closure. Alexander glanced Ravi. Eyes steady. Not closure. Continuation. He taught darkness holds light. Sight reveals we share it. Post-reception. Balcony overlooking sound. Group thinning. Elias pulled Alexander aside. Ty's college fund. You jump-started more than sight. Hug lingered. Platonic profound. Ravi joined. Hand in hand. Ready for home. Drive wound Capitol Hill. City lights winking. Bed welcomed. Bodies entwining. Love's language fluent. Years flowed. Ty's UW acceptance. Majoring photo under Alexander's adjunct wing. Ravi's TED Talk on queer artivism. Elias and Marco adopting sibling for Ty. Alexander's gray, threaded hair. Scar faded. But eyes, hazel depths, held storms navigated. One rainy eve, decades on, Alexander found the old lighter. Photo yellowed. Young Elias. Arm round soldier. Ravi, silver-foxed, peered over shoulder. Our origin story? Laughter shared. Album opened. Frames of currents. Weddings. Births. Losses mourned. In blindness. Elias cared. In sight. Alexander learned to see multitudes. Love, not possession, but constellation, points connected, illuminating dark.